Now, that easterly breeze will increasingly bring showers into the east and southeast of England as we go into Friday night. Those showers frequent near the North Sea coast, but elsewhere it's going to stay largely dry. Any rain in the far north of Scotland tend to fizzle out by the end of the night. And as we start off the weekend, most places are cold but frost-free. We're looking at 2 to 5 Celsius generally, although a touch of frost is likely across southern Scotland, northwest England, parts of Wales and the southwest. Saturday starts off where we've got those lower temperatures with plenty of sunshine, but elsewhere a lot of cloud cover, further showers coming in on the easterly wind, and that easterly is going to make it feel cold through Saturday, Sunday and into the start of next week.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television and online, across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co, the show where we get into the things that have got you talking today. Now, get this, 52% are in favour of what? Remember that old 52, 48? Where have I heard that before? Scottish independence it relates to this time. Apparently, 52% of Scots are in favour of independence. But so what though? Because you will be familiar with that ruling that they can't have the referendum anyway unless Westminster says so. Do you think it's just time we get all of this over and done with, have the referendum and everyone move on, or not? And get this, £574 million. Cool, blimey, what do you make to that? That is the figure that an entrepreneur has paid himself in dividends. Now, this is one of Britain's biggest dividend payouts, and many people are furious. They're saying this is one of the issues that we've got in society, inequality. There has and there has not. I say, wow, how inspirational, how motivational that actually here you can set up a business, be self-made and create those kinds of return. Personally, I'm not offended by it, I'm inspired by it. But what about you? Also, paedophiles. Do you think that if a convicted paedophile is attracted to children, as of course we know that they are, that they can somehow be rehabilitated with a bit of therapy? I don't. But what says you? Apparently a new study says that absolutely we should be going down the route of offering these people therapy to try and change them. I'm not sure it washes with me though, I'll be honest. And this whole palace race row, it's dominated so many column inches. over the last day or so. But should it do? Should it be this huge news? Is it a sign of an institutionally racist royal family or not? I want your thoughts on all of that. But first, let's bring ourselves up to speed with tonight's latest headlines.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm Tatiana Sanchez in the GB newsroom. The founder of a domestic abuse charity has told GB News she felt like she was being interrogated during a reception at Buckingham Palace. Ngozi Fulani described comments made by Prince William's godmother as unacceptable, and she was shocked by her behaviour during a royal reception. Lady Susan Hussey was forced to apologise and resign for repeatedly asking Ms Fulani where she really came from.
I mean, if you want to find out something about somebody, you ask a question once or twice. Once you've got the answer, you move on, right? And because this whole thing is about domestic abuse, there are other questions. But when the first thing she did as well is to take my hair and move it out of the way. That's the first thing. No hello, no nothing. You just actually, you know, and I've never done that. I really think that we need to respect people's personal space.
Meanwhile, the trailer for Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's Netflix docuseries, has been released. Promoted by the streaming service as a global event, the series features personal photos that have never been seen before. It's expected to air next week.
No one sees what's happening behind closed doors. I had to do everything I could to protect my family.
Ambulance wait times are higher now than they were at any point last winter. New data shows nearly a third of patients in England had to wait more than half an hour to be handed over to A&E last week. An average of 13,000 patients were also stuck in hospital beds each day, despite being ready to be discharged. The figures come as more than 40 so-called winter war rooms have been established to help find beds for patients faster. GB News understands more than 44,000 migrants have crossed the Channel so far this year. That's after around 200 people were intercepted this morning. The overall figure is significantly higher than last year's total, when 29,000 people were intercepted. A surge in the number of people trying to cross this week coincides with better weather conditions. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson plans to run as an MP in the next general election. That's according to a source close to him. Meanwhile, Ian Blackford is stepping down from his role as SNP leader at Westminster. Announcing the decision, he said he believed it was time for fresh leadership after 5 years in the role. He's confirmed he'll continue as MP for Ross, Skye and Lochaber. Rishi Sunak is facing his first electoral test with voters at the polls in the Chester by-election today. The vote was triggered by the resignation of former Labour MP Chris Matheson, who quit after complaints of serious sexual misconduct were upheld by a parliamentary watchdog. It's the first by-election since Boris Johnson's resignation and the financial market chaos that followed Liz Truss's mini-budget in September. Met Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley says he's going after corrupt officers within the force. Measures such as an anonymous hotline have been introduced to help identify them and to root out racism, misogyny and other toxic conduct. The Commissioner told London Assembly members hundreds of Met Police officers are letting the force down.
Has over a couple of decades become more bureaucratic than is sensible. So setting up the good officers to succeed is critical, as is taking on those who have undermined the trust of the public through their corrupting behaviour. They have corrupted our integrity with racism, misogyny and other toxic conduct, and we're going after them.
British Gas has announced it will pay customers for reducing the amount of energy they use during peak times. The energy supplier is the biggest to join the scheme, which is designed to ease the pressure on the grid. The company hopes 100,000 customers will agree to take part. Households will be paid around £4 for every unit of electricity they cut their consumption by at specific times. And St Ives has been crowned Britain's happiest place to live. The Cornish seaside town overtook Wrexham in Northumberland to take the top spot in right Rightmove's annual survey. It scored highly on its green spaces, amenities and its sense of community spirit. St Ives resident and winner of The Voice, Molly Hocking, says the town has a special atmosphere.
It's just an amazing place. It's got such a local, supportive atmosphere. Every time you wake up in the morning, all you can hear is the seagulls, no roads, no cars, just fresh air and the seagulls. And we've got everything. We've got shops, local bakers, sports clubs.
TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Dewbs & Co.
Thanks for that, Tatiana. Well, I'm with you right through until 7 o'clock this evening, and keeping me company here in the studio is my panel, Ali Mirage, the financier and the columnist at The Article, and alongside him, John McTernan, the political strategist and a former advisor to Tony Blair. Good evening, gentlemen. Nice to have you. And you know the drill, don't you, on Dewbs & Co? It's not just about us three, it's about you at home as well. What's on your mind tonight? Get in touch with me. gbviews@gbnews.uk, as always, is my email address, or you can tweet me at GB News. As a quick reminder, I want to talk to you about Scottish independence, whether or not wealth inequality is out of control in this country. £570 million is the amount that one businessman's just paid himself in dividends. Is that appropriate or is it offensive? I think it's great, quite frankly, but what do you make to it? And paedophiles, do you reckon they can be rehabilitated with a bit of therapy? I don't. I personally think they need to be castrated, but maybe I'm just a little bit harsh on the matter. What do you think? And also, as well, this whole palace race row, where do you stand on it? I want your thoughts on all of that, and that's how you can get hold of me. The email address is still on the screen, gbviews@gbnews.uk. Now, let's get straight into Scottish independence, shall we? Support for it has apparently risen to 52%. Now, I found this quite fascinating. Obviously, that 52-48 is always something that none of us will perhaps forget. And don't forget, by the way, this is fascinating, all these polls and all that, but ultimately, as per the court's judgment recently, Sturgeon can't even hold another independence referendum without permission from Westminster. So, to be honest, it's all a bit of a moot point anyway. But I wanted to talk about it because we just keep going round these circles, round these polls, don't we? So let's see if we can get to the bottom of it once and for all. I've got a proud Scotsman on my panel and also a proud Englishman, I'll call you that. I've got an email from one of my viewers straight off the bat called John. He's saying, Michelle, so the Scots are in 52% in favour of independence, but, John says, I think about 75% of English people want rid of them. You say they're a drain on us English. Ooh, harsh. I'll come to you first then for a response. Which camp are you in?
Well, if I was running the country, Michelle, which I'm unfortunately not, I would have a referendum, but I would make it a nationwide referendum. And the way it would work is this. If the Scots voted to leave and the rest of the UK wanted them to stay, they would leave. If the Scots voted to stay and the rest of the UK wanted them to leave, they would still leave. The only way they would stay is if the Scots themselves wanted to stay and the rest of the country wanted them to stay. Now, the reason why I want the whole of the UK to have a vote on this is because we also do subsidise the Scots through the Barnett formula. They'll argue that, oh, yeah, we don't, you take North Sea oil from us. But we do. That's a fact. So I think everyone should have a stake in this conversation. And frankly, I'm getting a bit tired of this whinging and moaning from the Scottish nationalists. They had a vote in 2014. They lost it. Yes, there's been a material event since then called Brexit, which they voted one way, the rest of the country voted against, so they feel disenfranchised. I do think if they want to have another vote, they should be given a vote. They're not going to get it unless the Westminster Parliament, as you rightly alluded to, grants that, because the Supreme Court said you can't have a wildcat referendum like they did in Catalonia. It's not going to count for anything. And by the way, I've got two questions I would like to ask Nicola Sturgeon and the Scottish nationalists. One is, if you do go independent, are you really going to join the EU? And if you are you going to really erect a border at Berwick-upon-Tweed? And secondly, what currency are you going to have? Because they're not going to be sterling.
Yeah, and by the way, it's not even for them to decide whether or not they're going to be in the EU if they leave us. That's not a decision that
27 countries are going to decide that.
Exactly. But just if there was a referendum and you got a vote in it, which way would you vote?
I'd vote for them to probably stay because I think we're better off together, but I might change my mind.
Well, you are indeed a proud Scotsman, John. Where do you stand on it?
I think that independence for Scotland is a stupider idea even than Brexit.
the most
Do you?
stupid
Well,
idea.
even than Brexit?
It's stupider than Brexit.
Oh, well. Someone's shouting at my screen. I can hear you already. I can hear you. You're shouting, it wasn't a stupid idea, Brexit.
Oh, it was
but
stupid then, it's stupid now. It'll always
for another
be
day.
stupid for eternity.
That is for another day, that one. But specifically on Scottish independence, you're not a fan of it. You don't think it should happen. Do you think there should be another referendum on the topic?
Not now. And
When?
the Supreme Court have ruled, not now. We're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. There's no issue more important in Scotland than dealing with the cost of living. That's got to be first priority. And the country, you got to run Scotland, got to run policing, trains, the police, education, health, in the interest of the public. And everything is run in Scotland to campaign for independence. There's poor education. It was great when I went to school. The standards are terrible now. And it's the government in Scotland under Nicola Sturgeon have only got one issue. Pick a fight, pick a fight, pick a fight, have a grievance, have a grievance. That's got to stop. And there's an interesting poll I saw a month or so ago. If you say yes or no, you get quite high votes for independence. If you say, should Scotland remain in the United Kingdom or leave the United Kingdom, you never get a majority for leave. If you ask the remain-leave question, independence never wins.
Why do you think that is?
Because the yes-no question stacks the question, doesn't it? Yes is such a positive thing, no feels so negative. If we have a referendum, it should be on remain and leave, and it should be done quickly. It was a big mistake of David Cameron to let Alex Salmond have a 2-year campaign before the vote, 6-week campaign, get it over and done with. But we have to get the SNP to agree. If there's another vote and they lose, they'll give up. But we know they won't. That's one of the frustrations about this. They've only got one issue in politics. It's grievance, grievance, grievance.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair? Grievance, grievance, grievance?
Well, look, one of the upsides of Scottish independence would be that we wouldn't have to listen to Ian Blackford.
Well, we don't have to listen to him anymore now. He's resigned. He's stood down, yeah.
I mean, literally, every time he gets up, I mean, the man is so dour. I mean, things are tough. But, I mean, even before they were tough, he was dour.
The thing is, he's actually quite a free marketeer, a bit like his politics are a lot closer to yours than to mine in terms of running the economy.
Well, you wouldn't have imagined it from what he says.
Oh, no,
the guy's got never a positive thing to say. And frankly, I think this constant moaning from the Scottish nationalists, we need to resolve this one way or the other. The interesting thing for the SNP is, though, that they now have an alternative threat in Labour. Labour's coming up. Labour's now run by Anas Sarwar. He's, a sensible, credible,
funny,
slick
clever,
guy.
yeah.
He communicates extremely well. I think the Tories, when they had Ruth Davidson, they were doing better. Now they're sort of on a downward trajectory. They don't have as a good a leader, but I think Anas Sarwar was one to watch. And I think the SNP's high watermark may have passed.
Your question about the currency is the profound one. They've actually said they want a Scottish pound, which I suppose will get called the pound. But the pound will float at 20% at least below the sterling. So that means mortgages in independent Scotland will be 20% higher, because there'll be mortgages from banks that are in England, and pensions will be 20% lower. They'll buy 20% less.
You see, John, the other thing is that Sturgeon, one of her planks is that we didn't vote to leave the EU. Now, you made the point. So you made the point, Michelle, that it's going to be up to 27 EU states to decide whether they're going to come in. Now, can you really see Spain, which has got its own problems in Catalonia, agreeing to this? Probably
France
not.
This is the interesting thing, and nobody really is considering this, because if you do allow, and this is the thing, it's not up to Nicola Sturgeon to say.
Absolutely.
It's not up to her to say, if you come, guys, let's vote independence from the UK, and then we'll go back and see. That's not her gift to even say that. And it is not in the interest of the EU to allow a breakaway nation to now get full membership to the EU, because once you facilitate it in this scenario, you set yourself up for failure in lots of the other member states.
But there's another issue as well, which is we've all now become armchair experts on borders, right? So we've got the Northern Ireland issue. We've got this border in the Irish Sea, the whole Northern Ireland Protocol fiasco that was signed up by David Frost, and he wants to renege on that straight away. We're all armchair experts. So if you are going to join the EU, which is a big if, by the way, because of what we just said, but let's say you get in there, you are going to have to have a goods border at Berwick-upon-Tweed. Now, you see all the issues with a border in the Irish Sea and all the division that's caused. The fact that the DUP in Northern Ireland feel that they've been thrown under the bus as the second-class citizens of this whole thing. Really, are we going to really erect a border, a land border, on this island at Berwick-upon-Tweed? That is the question that I would like to ask Scottish Nationalists. And they never want to face up to the answer.
No, they never want to answer the hard questions. They always want to say, no, let's have a fight with England. Let's have a fight with Westminster. Let's have a fight with the Supreme Court.
Well, are any Scottish, I'm just looking at my email, are any Scottish nationalists watching? Do you want that? Do you want this border that Ali's referring to? I want your thoughts on that. Andrew, you ask a good question. You say, is it really 52% of people want this? How many people were asked? What were the makeup of the people that were asked? How much do you trust these polls, John?
Oh, I trust the polls are pretty consistent. They have large sample sizes. The pollster Survation, I know the pollsters. This is sound. What they do is they exclude the don't knows, and the don't knows are really where they'll make their mind up in the campaign. So I think this is a bounce for independence after the Supreme Court and all of the moaning from the Scottish Government about it. I think it'll settle down before Christmas or after Christmas. We'll be back in. By the time we get to any possibility of there being a referendum, which would be in the second term of a Starmer government, that's a way off.
Did you hear what he just said then? A second term of a Starmer government. Very confident you are.
Well, you see, that's interesting, John, that you mentioned the Starmer government. Look, I think we are probably heading to a Labour government.
A government, the Starmer government.
Well, OK, well, he might be right. Look, he might be right. The thing is, I honestly thought a year ago that Starmer, if he got in, he would have a minority administration propped up by the SNP. At the moment, if he wins a majority, I don't think the chances of a Scottish vote happening are going to be that high. It would have been if it was a minority propped up by the SNP, but it might not happen. That's why...
Because the SNP have no choice.
Exactly.
The SNP have to vote for a Labour government, even if Labour's a minority. Otherwise, they keep Rishi Sunak or his successor Boris Johnson in number 10.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of people writing in as well about this whole kind of, it was supposed to be once in a generation.
Oh, yeah, I know. Well, they said that. They promised it, and then they don't... But you can't trust a word they say.
And that is the problem, I think, when you make these bold statements, such as this is once in a generation. I remember the Brexit referendum as well, when they said, we will implement whatever you decide, and people were coming back saying, no, it's supposed to be advisory. If you don't do what you say that you do, in my mind anyway, you lose quite a lot of credibility.
You credibility of politics, I agree.
Yeah, you do. So tell me your thoughts on that. I want to know, I'm looking at my inbox, are there any Scottish nationalists out there that are actually shouting at your screen and saying that we're all wrong and that it's absolutely right and proper that Scotland are independent? Are you out there? If you are, get in touch with me and tell me. gbviews@gbnews.uk is my email address, or you can tweet me at gbnews. Now, I'm going to take a quick break, let you ponder on that. When you come back, I want to ask you this. Do you think it's ethical for somebody to be able to pay themselves over £500 million as a dividend? Many people say it's absolutely immoral, shouldn't be happening. And I can hear people just on my panel already agreeing with that sentiment. And apparently it is wrong. I don't think it is, quite frankly. I think it's quite inspirational. Am I wrong? Tell me, and I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens,
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, right through until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, Ali Mirage, the financier and columnist at The Article, and John McTernan, the political strategist and a former advisor to Tony Blair. Right, let's talk money, shall we? Rishi Sunak's former boss has paid himself more than £500 million as a dividend. This, by the way, is one of the biggest payouts in British corporate history. John, I think it's fabulous. Self-made guy, creates a business, employs loads of people, does good, and gets financially rewarded for it. Am I wrong?
You should pay tax. You should pay much more tax. And it is obscene to have one individual being paid that amount of money.
Why
paying themselves that amount of money.
Why?
Because we're in the middle of a cost of living crisis where nurses are going to food banks. Nurses have to go to food banks.
I've got to pull you up
but
on
somebody's
this.
paying themselves £1.6 million a day.
Right. First things first.
How long does a nurse have to work to earn 1.6? What he earns in a day?
But why are you comparing?
Decades.
Why are you comparing a nurse?
Because we live in a society together.
Yes, but a nurse who's someone who's chosen to be my mum and sister, by the way, as examples, are NHS nurses. My mum and sister have chosen that career path, knowing full well that they're never going to be, wealthy billionaires as a result of their chosen career path. That's not what they're in it for. They're in it for the vocation and for the giving back and the helping others. Brilliant. I admire them. What has that got to do?
Choose a vocation to have their noses rubbed in it by somebody paying themselves £1.6 million a year and
Are you
paying
jealous of it?
and paying lower taxes
Are you
than anybody
jealous
will
that
pay on
he's
their
earning
earnings.
£500 million?
No, I'm quite happy for people to earn money and to make money, but I think they should pay higher rates of tax on it. That's all.
How much higher?
I would say let's have a super tax.
What,
on
like?
this kind of earning?
How much?
Of 60.
You want him to pay 60% of his earnings?
Yeah.
Really? And so what do you think he's going to do? Do you reckon he's going to stay and pay 60% tax in this country, or do you reckon he's going to establish himself in a country that he doesn't have to pay 60% of his earnings?
He can go to Monaco if he wants.
So then you'll get zero?
Yeah.
And then what?
We have to show our values, and it cannot be right that somebody earns in a day what a nurse would take decades to earn.
I find this... I mean, you are a financier. That's how I introduced you. I find, no offence, John, a very smart guy, but I find his comparison between this entrepreneur and nurses ridiculous. Where do you stand on that?
Well, look, I think John alludes to an important point, which is the fact that there is growing inequality in this country. And it's something that I've been worried about, Michelle, as you know, we've discussed it before. I'm a capitalist, but I just think the capitalist system is not working for everyone. It hasn't been working properly for a very long time. You look at real wages in the past 10 years, they've been falling. You look at a situation now where 1% of the people in this country have got 13% of all the income. The top 10% have 44% of all the wealth. That is not a healthy position for a society to be in. Now, what do? One is we have to give proper educational opportunities to people to skill and take on people and get the best education they can to go and earn, if they want to, millions and billions. That's one thing. But I do think that if you've got a situation where you've got 177 billionaires in the country that increased their wealth by 10% in the last couple of years during COVID, something's going wrong somewhere when other people are suffering, right? So I do think redistribution is part of the answer. Now, that's not very fashionable on the centre-right, right, where I traditionally come from. But I think it's an important conversation to have because, and this is where I agree with John, tax is part of the answer, right? I do think tax is part of that. If I had been in charge, which again I'm not, sorry, there's a common theme here, I would have increased tax.
I'd vote for you, Alex.
I would have increased tax on people earning greater than 150,000 to 50%, right? I think, given where we are, given we've got 400 billion of borrowing on the back of COVID, given we've got 2.7 trillion of public debt here, and we've got 7 million people on waiting lists, the systems are creaking. Why are we having general strikes?
I'm not having this. You saying, you know, you're both saying, I want to bang your heads together, quite frankly.
But I love entrepreneurs.
Maria has emailed in saying, Michelle, I normally agree with you on everything, but on this, you're completely wrong. She agrees with both of you. Maria says there's one word here, and that is greed. You write it in capitals. You feel that strongly about it, Maria. But I just don't buy into this notion of, you know, let's tax the wealth more, tax the wealth more. You say about...
Well, what do you want to tax? Tax the poor?
Well, no, I think that the wealthy already pay huge amounts of tax. You talk about, should I say, people earning over £150,000 per annum, you want to take half of their wages off them.
On the top end, exactly.
So anything plus 150. But those people earning plus 150, they've already had such a big burden compared to the lower earners. So, for example, they have no personal allowance, they have no free childcare, they have no, I don't know, whatever personal
child benefit.
No, I don't mean child benefit. I mean,
but they lose child benefit.
Yeah, so you get no child benefit. You get no 30 hours free childcare. So you already do pay over and above your share. You pay the highest rate, so your 45p rate. And I just don't buy into this notion of squeezing them high.
Sorry, John.
I think you're jealous.
Sorry, John, you go. I've got another point to make about that.
No, it's just that if this billionaire paid 50% tax, he would still be earning £800,000 a year.
But just to be clear...
And a classroom teacher or a nurse would take 30 years to earn that much.
Yeah, but look, Cristiano... Let's just get real here. It's not just entrepreneurs. Look at Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I'm not saying he's not worth 172 million that he signed a deal with Saudi Arabia over whatever each year. The point is this also, Michelle. We should be equalising the tax base. What does that mean? That means that people who earn money like this in dividends should pay an effective same tax rate as someone who's working a normal job earning 150 grand.
Exactly.
At the moment, the tax rate on dividends is a lot lower than the 45p top rate of tax. Same for capital gains. So if you're a private equity person earning a lot of money and you're very successful, great. I love private equity people. They do a lot of good work. They earn returns. They absolutely should. They take risk. But we should be taxing them in a similar way to people earning income tax.
So you want to take money. So at the moment, as you say, you've got income tax, you've got capital gains tax.
Yeah.
So people that are making capital gains, more often than not, they're taking taxed money, so net money, so money that they've earned, let's say as income perhaps, they've paid income tax on, so this is taxed money, and then they're investing that, and then they're paying additional tax on that. So you want them to pay two types of income.
I'm talking about the specific industries which actually the way they're modelled, it's based on capital gains tax, right? So they don't take out money on they don't get charged income tax, they get charged capital gains tax on their earnings, which is a 28% level at the moment compared to 45% if you're a higher rate payer. I think you should equalise the tax base and be fair, right? This guy, look, I don't believe, by the way...
None of my viewers are having any of me.
I don't believe...
any of them, I'm saying.
But I also don't believe this is a moral issue in the sense that we should be dictating
to take over the show, then.
I don't believe we should be saying to Chris Hone, you know, this is immoral. No. He's an entrepreneur. He's made his money. That's fine. I agree with Rutger Bregman, the Dutch economist, who said, let's stop talking about philanthropy. Let's just start talking about taxes properly. And he's from the left. I'm not from the left.
If he's part of a society, of course. If Chris Hone's part of a society, he'll want to pay his fair share to the NHS, so the nurses can get paid well.
Andrew's emailed in. I've got to say, I am definitely in the minority. Luckily for me, I can handle that, I'm fine. But I am definitely in the minority, not just on the panel, but with you guys at home. You're saying, Michelle, are you telling me it's OK for a teacher to pay 55% tax, but not for a billionaire to pay 60%? No, Andrew, I'm not saying that. Firstly, teachers don't pay 55% income tax. Nobody does. And secondly, you know, when you all start talking about, let's stick a 60% tax rate on, no offence, but I think you're deluded. Because if you think a billionaire is going to sit there and say, I'll tell you what, I'll stay registered in the UK and I'll pay 60% of my earnings, as opposed to, I don't know, basing myself wherever that has a zero tax rate. You're deluded. So then all you'll do is you'll just actually get zero tax revenue as opposed to the portion that you currently get.
Yeah, but they already do that, Michelle. And Monaco's full of people like that who already are at the current rate of 45%. Don't want to pay 45 because it's too high for them.
So
I mean, loads of people are doing that already, right?
And by the way, it's worth saying that this fella as well is one of the UK's biggest philanthropists as well. I celebrate success. I want more of it. And I also, by the way, would like to see nurses being paid better. And in fact, the lower paid in society being paid better overall. They're not mutually exclusive in mind. You can celebrate success whilst equally...
but how, Michelle?
I don't know. We'll have to...
You have to raise taxes or borrow more. And you can't borrow more in rising interest rate environments. You've got to tax people more.
Well, there you go. I can safely say that nobody, quite frankly, seems to agree with me. Right. I'm going to take a quick break.
Dewbs and no code.
Yeah, Dewbs and no code. Yeah, Dewbs and kicked out. What can I say? Right. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, if you do agree with me, hunt me out, please, so that I don't feel on me. I might sit and cry. I need a safe space or something to get over it. Right, when we come back, I want to talk to you about paedophiles. Do you think they can be rehabilitated with a bit of therapy or not? I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dewbs & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. I'm with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, we've got Ali Mirage, who's the columnist at The Article, and John McTernan, who's the political strategist and former advisor to Tony Blair. He's also the man that pointed out just before the break that this show shouldn't be called Dewbs & Co anymore because I'm all on my own tonight. However, I've got news for you all because in the break I found my cur.
You found your cur?
Yes, Karen, Yvonne, Tracy, Steve, Lisa, Jim, Diane, Denise. You sensible people of Britain, you all agree with me, so thank you. I can get rid of my safe space, dry my tears, because it seems, after all, that at least 5 of you think I'm speaking sense. So thank you for that. Right, let's move on. Let's talk paedophile, shall we? Why not? When it comes to someone that is actually a paedophile, that of course has been convicted of the same, what should their punishment solution be? Over in Sweden, they've been doing some tests, some pilot schemes, whatever you want to call it, and they're now saying that actually therapy is the answer. You can't just lock these people up. Apparently, you've got to be putting them onto training courses, therapy, CBT, and apparently that is how you can help rehabilitate these people. Do you agree?
I do believe in rehabilitation. I think the purpose of prison is rehabilitation.
Do you?
Yeah, the the purpose of in being imprisoned, losing your liberty is a punishment, but you definitely don't want prisoners to come out and commit the same crimes again.
A lot of them do, so it can't be that bad.
Well, rehabilitation is one of the toughest things to do, and I think this study of only 160 people it doesn't even seem to be a study of actual offenders who've been prosecuted and imprisoned. So I think that's quite... I'm not a great believer myself in CBT. I'm a believer in proper psychoanalysis, expensive therapy, and it looks like this is an attempt to find a cheap way to not put people in prison. And what we need to do is we do need investment in prevention, but investment in social work and investment in investigation and investment in prosecution, because, you know, people who commit crimes, people who commit child sex abuse should be imprisoned, and they should be caught, imprisoned, and there should be attempts, if it can work, to make these people change their behaviour, and that's the big question. And I'm not convinced by this study.
Ali.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I actually, at the risk of breaking out in consensus here, I'm with John on this again, because I've actually done 2 years of psychotherapy training for fun. I was actually interested in the communication parts of psychotherapy. And CBT is, in many senses, a very blunt instrument and quite a cheap one.
Yeah.
That people, I mean, it can be helpful, but it's quite cookie-cutter approach. It's not very bespoke. And the reason why it's used in the NHS is because it's about throughput and it's about resources, and it's a quick and effective...
Cost saving.
It's a cost-saving issue, and, you know, fine, it may be better than nothing. But this study that's been done here is not exactly conclusive at all. I mean, it's pretty sparse, quite frankly. I'm not even sure it's made much difference.
No.
On the point about... Look, if people commit crimes, and I must say paedophilia is one of the most despicable, awful things imaginable, there are 2 issues. One is punishment, so retribution. The other is rehabilitation, as John says. Now, it doesn't just apply to paedophiles, but the criminal justice system and the way we deal with prisoners isn't working very effectively, right? The reoffending rate is high. When it comes to paedophiles, you want to, if there are psychological issues here, to try and deal with those and try and... so that they don't come out and reoffend. I mean, that's the fundamental thing, right? We're trying to
otherwise
deal with
prison forever. It's really
It's a
we
good
have
job
to try and
I've
stop
got thick
it.
skin, because I'm in disagreement with you both. Again, I'm completely on my own tonight, and I am borderline, as you say, be Michelle, with no co. You can be the co, and just me on the corner of me. I disagree with the pair of you, because I don't believe it's possible for a paedophile to be rehabilitated, because paedophilia, lowest of the low, I mean, you know, we all know what it is, we don't need to rehash it. But to me, that is, it's a grotesque form of sexual preference. And when you talk about rehabilitation, that's almost like you suggesting, right, Michelle, you're a straight person, that's your sexual preference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you to 27 classes of CBT to try and reprogram your sexuality and make you somehow now attracted to women. I'm sorry, I'm being careful because it's tea time. I do not believe that you can rewire the sexual preference of a person like that. So if indeed someone has that grotesque, repulsive sexual preference, I don't want you having CBT, quite frankly. I want you to be castrated. I'll allow myself to be kind, and I'm not going to make you have physical surgery, but I would absolutely be pushing these people towards chemical castration. I think that's very sensible, and I want to give myself a pat on the back. Am I wrong?
We need to find whatever works to stop
I've given you a
paedophiles
solution.
offending
Would you be
again.
in favour of chemical castration?
I've got no evidence that works.
Well, it removes your libido.
Well, the abuse of children is quite often within the family. Actually, and removing people from the family removes them from the opportunity. We have to stop the crime initially when we can. We have to imprison people, and we have to find a way to rehabilitate. And I think there are conditions for people being released from prison which keep them away from the circumstances where they abuse.
Oh, come on.
We can't have a situation.
They're not just doing it because they've got a child in their immediate proximity. If you take that child out of their immediate proximity, which you absolutely should, These
Most
people
child
are gonna go
sexual
online.
abuse is done within the family. It's a thing within the family. It's not a stranger danger
But then
thing.
they'll still
it's done within the
they'll
family.
still be looking at these images online. I don't buy into this appalling notion of child porn. There is no such thing as child porn. There's only child abuse. And when you look at this
there's
stuff,
child abuse.
yeah, when you look at this stuff,
Yep.
you're not looking at porn. Don't delude yourself. You're looking at crime scenes. It's disgraceful.
Yep.
And it's that needs to be stopped, all of it, because it's all right, yeah, let's take the child out of the home or let's take the person out of the home. You still have this industry. These people still go and look at these imagery. These children are still being abused to create the imagery to fulfill the preferences of these people. It's not just men, by the way, it's women as well. I just find it disgusting.
It is disgusting.
And I think,
It is disgusting. And it's absolutely appalling. Absolutely appalling.
but then I think we should be taking steps to introduce chemical castration. They have it in Ukraine, by the way. Lots of people champion a lot of stuff to do with Ukraine. It's legal and welcome there that you can.
Well,
do
perhaps
that.
we should have the government should commission a full-on review of this issue and the ways that it can be dealt with. And maybe that is one solution that can be looked at, but it would have to be evidence-based. We'd have to have a study and trials done to see if it works. I mean, I completely agree with you, Michelle. I mean, to fathom the thought is just reprehensible, quite frankly.
Prevention of this at every level has to be
Absolutely.
the objective.
Well, yes. You tell me your thoughts on that. Am I alone? Am I a bit harsh? You tell me. I want your thoughts on that. I wouldn't be pinning people down, by the way, and getting my surgical scissors out. I'm suggesting using chemicals. I think that's a sensible, humane. I mean, everyone's into all that stuff these days, aren't they? I think that is a solution. Tell me your thoughts on that. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll have some of your thoughts on the topics we've been discussing tonight. But I also want to get into this whole royal race row. I mean, I would say, have you seen it? But of course you've seen it. It's absolutely everywhere. It's been dominating the news headlines. Should it have done? What on earth's going on? I'll see you in a couple of minutes and we'll get right into that.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, right through until 7 o'clock this evening. Alongside me, we have Ali Mirage, the columnist at The Article, and John McTernan, the political strategist and the former advisor to Tony Blair. Brian likes you too. He's emailed in, he says, doesn't agree with everything that you've said, but he really rates the panel tonight, so there you go. Nice love coming in from Brian. Lots of people getting in touch, by the way, still on this whole CEO thing. Should you be able to earn, 500 million quid? Susan says, no. Definitely not. This man should not be paying himself that amount of money. Mark says, I'm all for high earners, given I'm one myself, but anyone earning £500 million is disgusting and obscene. Mark, you say you're a high earner, so what's your line then? I'm fascinated by all of this because everyone seems to want everyone else to pay more tax and all the rest of it, but not them. So where's your line? You say you're a high earner. At what point then would you start rinsing people for even more tax? Get in touch and tell me on this whole paedophile thing. Lots of you are even harsher than me. I won't read out at tea time what you would do in response to paedophiles. I'll save that for another day. You can use your imagination. But lots of people agreeing with me on the chemical castration thing. Someone else, Barbara, your name is, you're saying about that whole, take people out of the family. What you're saying, Barbara, and I think you're spot on, you say that doesn't stop the situation, it just changes the victim. Completely agree with you. Right. Let's move on to another topic that's got a lot of people talking, everyone. I'm sure you know what it is that I'm referring to. The so-called palace race row. It's been everywhere, hasn't it? It's dominated the headlines. Obviously, I'm talking about the fact that a black British charity boss was apparently repeatedly asked where she was really from by Prince William's godmother. This was all at an event at Buckingham Palace this week. Anyway, the lady's gone on to resign. And everyone, even now, the Prime Minister has been talking about it. Let's have a listen.
Institutional racism has been found within the London Fire Brigade. In some police forces, now the victim of the royal race row says Buckingham Palace is also institutionally racist. Is she right?
Well, it wouldn't be right for me to comment on matters to do with the royal palace, although, as we've all seen, they've acknowledged what's happened and made an apology for it.
Well, there you go. Like I said, everyone is talking about it. My inbox has been on fire about it as well. Ali Miraj, I'm going to come to you first.
That's racist. Sorry.
Oh, that's racist.
See, typical. Typical. Come to me first. Yeah, please come to me first. I've got a very strong view on this.
I nearly made what I thought was a hilarious comeback then.
You better not.
Modern day
Be careful.
I best not. I best just shut up and ask you what you think. Ali, go on.
No, look, Michelle, I get asked all the time where I'm from, originally from. I never, ever have taken offence to that question, right? I'm British-born. If people ask me, where are you originally from? I say Pakistan, very proudly. And then often what will happen is they'll say, oh, whereabouts? And I'll say my father's from Lahore, my mother's from Karachi. And then it might be maybe a person of a certain age might say, oh, I've been to Lahore, or my grandfather served in the army in Rajasthan or whatever. I don't know what. But you could have a really deep, rich conversation. It shows inquisitiveness. It shows that you're trying to engage at a more deeper, visceral level with someone. I find this whole thing absolutely and utterly bizarre. I mean, I've read the whole transcript. Yes, I think Lady Hussey sort of went on a bit. Yes, some of the terms she used when the person came back and said, I'm a British national, she should probably just left it there and thought, I'm not making any progress here. But the intent of her, from reading the transcript, to me was clear. She was trying to find out where she was from. And then the person herself had said that she was proud of her background. This is what she's saying, that her parents taught her to be proud of her background. And then when asked about where she's from, she's saying, I don't know, no records were kept. I mean, really? No records were kept? You would know where your parents come from. And why is this such an issue? I asked someone this morning, someone of black origin this morning, I said, look, I'm ethnically Asian. I don't see this as an issue. Do you? And you go, oh, but it's different for you because you're Asian. You were treated differently in colonial times. Really? I mean, honestly, I genuinely, Michelle, I really honestly would love people to sort of tell me, I want to understand where this issue is emanating from. Yesterday, I was at a banking conference and I spoke to someone about a very senior lady in the banking industry, and we were chatting, and I said, where are you from? And she said, I'm from Essex, Hertfordshire borders. I never went to university. I was always looked down in the city, but I made it, and I'm really proud of my background. And I asked her, I said, how do we change that perception in the city? Because now everyone has to get a degree. If I hadn't asked her that question, we would have never had that rich conversation. It would have been lost. And this person today has said, I was at an event on domestic abuse. The conversation should have been around domestic abuse. Why? If I go to an arts event, I don't just talk to the person about art. I might ask them about loads of things. I might ask them about where's home for them in London. I find the whole thing really odd. And I think that, look, the royal family, in my view, and I've got a lot of time for William and King Charles, I think they've done a knee-jerk reaction. They've kicked out a lady here after 60 years of service. And I think the reason they've done it is because of the whole Harry and Meghan issue, and I think they're worried and scared.
I've got to say, obviously, she chose to resign, apparently, this lady. John, where are you on it?
Well, She was racist. She accepts it. She's apologised and she's resigned.
How
and
can
the
you
panel accepts
categorically
it.
say she was racist?
Asking for 5 minutes where somebody comes from, a black British person asking them for five minutes where they come from, that's racist.
But hang on.
People of colour get that. People of colour get that all the time, and that's where it comes from. It comes from.
But, OK. So when you say she was asking for 5 minutes, I just do need to, in case everyone's not familiar with the whole thing, because bizarrely, there's a transcript of the whole thing that's been, I mean, I don't know about you, but I couldn't sit here and transcribe word for word, absolutely perfectly, a conversation that you and I have just had, or one that I had this morning. I couldn't do that personally. My memory's not that sharp, but notwithstanding that, apparently this has all been transcribed. You say it was all about for 5 minutes. The conversation starts off with a big misunderstanding because the person's asking, where are you from? The person, the charity boss, took it to mean which organisation, which you would. I mean, you're at a works event and someone says, where are you from?
Yeah.
I would say, oh, what do you mean, GBNews, where do I work, what? So the first part of the conversation was a genuine confusion about, are you referring to my employer or what? So that's the first part of the conversation. And then it does kind of go on from there. So I'm just fascinated how you think absolutely, categorically racist to ask this person where she's from.
Where are you from? Where are you from? Asked to a black British woman repeatedly. The implication is you're not from here.
Yeah, but why didn't she answer and say...
That is racist.
But John, why didn't she just say...
It's racist in intention. It's racist. And
Lady
Hussey has resigned, apologised, and she's
John,
resigned.
I don't get this. I'm sorry, I don't get this.
How do you know it's
She's
racist
resigned. She's
in
apologised for it.
No, how can you categorically say it's racist in intention? You might be able to say it was received as being racist.
Yes, yeah.
How can you categorically say the intention of another person? Because you don't know.
It was a racist remark, and if you
But that's
use
not
that,
what you said. You said it was racist.
It's used intentionally. Repeatedly asking a black British person where they are from is othering them, and it's racist.
I honestly, John, I don't understand it. I honestly don't understand.
There's no two sides to this.
And
that's why Lady Hussey resigned.
I don't understand this. I really don't understand it. And this is why when I spoke to this lady of black origin, I don't know who she was on a programme this morning, and when she said, but you were treated differently under colonialism, and I thought there's a much deeper issue here potentially, right, which perhaps I'm blind to, and I'd love to be educated about, because for me, I don't see that at all. I mean, when my mother went to, when I was going to school, she had to be interviewed for my school admission. They interviewed the parents. And the headmaster of this school asked my mother, where are you from? She was Pakistan originally. Said, what is the Urdu word for mosquito net? And she said, Machardani. He said, of course I remember that because I served in India. Yeah, thanks for reminding me. And they formed an immediate bond and rapport. I just find it really strange, this whole thing. Look, if she had replied and said, look, my parents are from where they are, wherever from, maybe Lady Hussey would have said, oh, I've been there. Or, oh, OK, how interesting. You know, I don't know. But I have these conversations all the time. I can genuinely, hand on heart, say, and by the way, I take Ubers all the time. There could be a white driver. I've had so many conversations. I had one the other day with a white guy. I said, where are you from? He said, oh, Italy. I said, oh, how do you feel about Giorgia Meloni? And we had a whole half-an-hour conversation about Italian politics. That wasn't racist. Tell me if it was. Maybe it was. I don't know.
There was a long interview by Ngozi this morning on the BBC, and it's really, she gave a really clear account of what went on. And then there was later an interview with two different people of colour who said that it's a thing that every person of colour has experienced in the UK. And look, it is racist to other people. It's racist to ask where you're from, where you're really from, where your family from. We live in a multiracial society, and people have to accept that the place people come from is Britain.
I know, but I'm really sorry. I just want to challenge you on a few of these things. This lady went to an event. She looked beautiful. She looked wonderful. She was dressed in traditional dress. I don't know if it was African or what. I don't know. I'll probably get the term wrong. But she was dressed in a way that was representative of a different culture.
Touched her braids and moved like it's...
She looked wonderful. That in itself, visually, would invite
touching a black woman's hair.
Hang on. And heritage is obviously important, particularly to this individual. Yeah. And the reason I reference that is because this individual herself runs a charity exclusively for, I quote, African and Caribbean heritage women. So how does she determine who is an African and Caribbean heritage woman if she doesn't ask them?
She's running a service for black women in the UK.
No, she's not. She is running a service, and I directly quote from her website. I'm not making this up. There's a direct quote on her website. We support African and Caribbean heritage women.
Yeah.
How do you ascertain who is African and heritage woman then?
The women who turn up for this service.
So if I turn up,
you're of African heritage, are you?
oh, so you've just told me you can't ask someone about their heritage.
You've told me you're self-identifying.
I didn't tell anyone. No, I didn't. I just said to you, if I turn up to the service, can I use it?
You're turning up to a service aimed at black women, and you think you're either.
It's not aimed at black women.
You're either laughing at the women who get that.
Yeah, but you know, if she
laughing to prize that service.
Excuse me, and it's
by
very
turning up to a white woman.
Excuse you me, it's very well documented that I myself have had a extensive history with domestic abuse. I've been in domestic violence refuges. It's deeply affected my life. So I can tell you now, I would never laugh at a woman that's experienced domestic abuse, irrespective of their background or their culture. I'm not laughing at anything.
Turning up as a white woman is a black woman's service.
Well, you're calling it a black woman's service. Her direct quote is it's supporting African and Caribbean heritage women. What I'm saying is, how does she ascertain the heritage of that person in order to exclusively provide services to them if she doesn't ask them their heritage?
I'm pretty sure the women who turn up to that service identify themselves as black women.
I honestly, it's really. I feel really sad. Actually, I genuinely feel sad about what's happening to my country. Really, that we've got to a stage now where we assume the worst in people. Right? I don't know Lady Hussey. I've never met the lady. Right? All I know is she served the royal family for 60 years and she's left under this cloud. Now, the point is this, right? I'm telling you genuinely, I'm an Asian man. I have really deep, rich conversations about this. One time, a colleague of mine years ago very innocently said, "Oh, Ali, will you be going back home for Christmas?" He meant Pakistan, and he immediately checked himself and said, "I'm sorry." Whatever. You know, but I just feel really sad that we've got to this level, Michelle. Really.
I find it really sad. And I also find it really sad that there's this immediate pile-on. You know, this is, I've been violated, I've been abused. Maybe someone just didn't use the word heritage in the right way. Or maybe I am indeed completely wrong. You tell me your thoughts. In the meantime, though, have yourself a fantastic evening. That is all I've got time for. Ali, John, appreciate the debate. I appreciate your comments at home. Have a wonderful evening. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you tomorrow.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewbs, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dewbs and Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewbs, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dewbs and Co.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.